The city of Oakhaven was a grid of neon light and cold concrete, a place where wealth moved in invisible streams through fiber-optic cables, while people shivered in the shadows of the skyscrapers that housed the servers. In the heart of this digital fortress lived Leo. To any passerby, he was just a 7-year-old boy in a faded, oversized hoodie, his blonde hair a messy nest, and his blue eyes perpetually fixed on a cracked tablet screen. But Leo didn't see the world in bricks and mortar. He saw it in lines of code, back doors, and unencrypted packets. Leo was an orphan of the system, living in the attic of a condemned library. He didn't have a family, but he had the deep web, and he had a mind that processed algorithms faster than the banks could update their firewalls. Leo sat on a milk crate, the blue light of his tablet illuminating his small, focused face. His fingers danced across a virtual keyboard. He wasn't playing a game. He was currently sitting inside the mainframe of Aegis Global Holdings, a private equity firm with more dark money than some small nations. Node 4 is weak, he whispered to himself. Too much latency. They're running a trace. He didn't panic. Panic was a bug, logic was the feature. With a few swift keystrokes, Leo deployed a ghost protocol, a script he'd written that bounced his IP address through 16 different servers in 4 different hemispheres. To the security team at Aegis, it looked like a flickering glitch from a refrigerator in Norway. He slipped through the final layer of encryption. There was the red ledger, an account holding $450 million, labeled simply as discretionary expenses. It was money meant for bribes, for silencing scandals, for making the world a harder place for people like Leo. Click. Leo didn't take it all. Taking it all would sound alarms. He took 0.01%, a rounding error. $45,000. To Aegis, it was a penny lost in a sofa cushion. To the streets of Oakhaven, it was a miracle. Leo tucked his tablet into his backpack and stepped out into the drizzling rain. He walked with his head down, looking like just another kid lost in the city. But as he walked, his eyes were scanning. He saw Mr. Henderson, a man who used to own a bakery before the rent tripled. Now he sat on a damp piece of cardboard, his hands shaking from the cold. Leo stopped a few feet away. He pulled out a small burner smartphone, one of many he had configured to act as a digital wallet. He tapped a few icons. "Excuse me," Leo said, his voice small and high-pitched. Mr. Henderson looked up, his eyes weary. "Hey there, kid. You lost?" "No," Leo said, stepping closer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick envelope. He had stopped at a black box ATM he'd hacked 3 blocks back, one that didn't keep logs. He dropped the envelope into the man's lap. "What's this?" Mr. Henderson asked, his fingers fumbling with the seal. As he pulled out a stack of hundreds, his breath caught. "Wait, kid. Where did you get this?" But Leo was already merging into the crowd, his hoodie pulled low. As Leo walked, he checked his tablet again. He noticed something strange. A new signal was pinging his location. Not a bank trace, this was different. It was a hunter-killer script, designed to track hardware signatures. Someone wasn't looking for the money. They were looking for him. He ducked into an alleyway, his heart finally beginning to race. He realized he hadn't been as invisible as he thought. The rounding error he'd taken had triggered a silent alarm in a private security firm called Iron Gate. Leo sat behind a dumpster and opened a terminal window. He saw the trace closing in. They were within 2 blocks. He looked at the street. Across the way was a local shelter, the St. Jude's home, currently facing eviction notices plastered on the windows. He looked at the tablet. He had a choice. He could wipe his drive and run, or he could finish what he started. "Big numbers," Leo muttered, his eyes narrowing. "Let's give them big numbers." He bypassed the Aegis discretionary account and went straight for their operating capital. He initiated a massive transfer, $2 million. But he didn't send it to himself. He routed it through a series of laundering loops and deposited it directly into the St. Jude's home official donation portal. The transaction was public. It was irreversible. The sound of tires screeching echoed at the end of the alley. Black SUVs. Leo didn't run away. He ran into the digital infrastructure. He tapped into the city's traffic light system. Asterisk green. 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 Asterisk. He created a gridlock 3 blocks wide, trapping the SUVs in a sea of honking taxis. Then, he accessed the city's cellular towers. He sent a localized pulse, a signal that overwhelmed nearby devices with white noise. The security team's tablets went dark. Their GPS failed. Leo climbed a fire escape, his small frame moving with practiced ease. From the rooftop, he watched the chaos below. He pulled a small screwdriver from his pocket, popped the back of his tablet, and pulled out the solid-state drive. He looked at the drive, his only friend, the keeper of all his secrets. Then, he dropped it into a deep, bubbling puddle of oil and rainwater in the gutter. He was a ghost again. The next morning, the news was filled with the miracle of Oakhaven. A local shelter had received a massive, anonymous donation that cleared its debts for a decade. Dozens of homeless veterans reported finding envelopes of cash. Aegis Global couldn't complain to the police without admitting where the discretionary money had come from in the first place. They had to take the loss. In a quiet corner of a park, a small boy sat on a bench, eating an apple he'd bought with a single, honest dollar. He didn't have a tablet. He didn't have a computer. He just had the sun on his face. For now, the city was quiet. But Leo knew that as long as there were people with too much and people with nothing at all, there would always be a need for a little bit of glitch in the system. He stood up, adjusted his hoodie, and started walking. He had a lot of work to do. The silence of being offline didn't last long. For Leo, the world without a screen was like a song played on mute. He could still see the vibrations, the rhythm of the city's pulse, and the hidden gears turning behind every storefront. He spent 3 days sleeping in the back of an old, abandoned transit bus, his mind mapping out his next move. He knew that Iron Gate, the security firm, wouldn't just give up. They were hunters, and he had embarrassed them. More importantly, he needed a new deck. A hacker without a rig was like a bird without wings. Leo didn't go to a store. Stores had cameras, credit card logs, and serial numbers tied to identities. Instead, he went to the Circuit Graveyard, a massive e-waste recycling center on the edge of the industrial district. To the guards, he was just a scruffy kid looking for copper wire to sell. They let him pass for a few crumpled singles. But Leo was looking for gold. By noon, he had found a cracked but functional liquid crystal display from a high-end medical monitor. A fried motherboard from a gaming laptop. The processor was intact. Only the power stage had blown. A long-range Wi-Fi antenna salvaged from an old weather station. A lithium-ion battery pack from a discarded electric scooter. He retreated to his attic sanctuary in the condemned library. Using a soldering iron powered by a stolen car battery, Leo began to weave the pieces together. He didn't build a tablet this time. He built a multi-node rig housed inside a battered metal lunchbox. It looked like junk, but inside, it was a beast capable of cracking 256-bit encryption in minutes. He christened it the Ghost Box. As soon as he booted up, the digital world rushed back. He stayed off the public internet, instead piggybacking on the private microwave links used by the city's utility companies. It was a cleaner, faster, and much harder to trace connection. He checked the news. The Aegis Global hack had sent ripples through the financial district. Other firms were tightening their security, but they were making a fatal mistake. They were building higher walls instead of fixing the foundations. Leo's eyes drifted to a local news report. Northside General Hospital struggles with ransomware attack. The screen showed a frantic mother holding a sick infant. A group of hackers called the Iron Cipher had locked the hospital's patient records, demanding 500 Bitcoin, nearly $30 million, to release the data. Until then, surgeries were delayed, and medicine couldn't be dispensed. Leo's small hands tightened around the edges of the lunchbox. He didn't care about the Iron Cipher. He cared about the kid on the screen. Leo didn't try to pay the ransom. That would just embolden the bullies. Instead, he decided to perform a digital heist on the heist itself. He traced the ransomware's signature. It wasn't sophisticated, it was just brutal. He found the command and control server, a hidden rack in a data center in a country with no extradition laws. "You're sloppy," Leo whispered, his fingers flying. He didn't attack the server directly. Instead, he looked for the personal accounts of the hackers who wrote the code. One of them had a weakness for online poker. Leo followed a trail of cookies and metadata until he found a backdoor into the hacker's personal laptop. From there, it was a domino effect. He moved from the laptop to the server, and from the server to the decryption key vault. But Leo didn't just take the keys for the hospital. He saw hundreds of folders. Asterisk small business A, school district B, retirement home. And C, asterisk these monsters were bleeding everyone dry. He didn't just hit delete. He wrote a script that would broadcast the decryption keys to every affected organization simultaneously, while also triggering a logic bomb that would overheat the hacker's server CPUs until they literally melted into slag. Asterisk execution in 3, 2, 1, asterisk. While the digital war raged, Leo took a walk. He needed to see the impact. He ended up at a bus stop where an elderly woman was crying. Her phone was in her hand, showing a payment declined message. She was trying to buy a ticket to go see her sister in the hospital, but her bank account had been frozen due to a suspected security breach, likely a side effect of the chaos Leo had caused at Aegis. Leo stood beside her. He didn't say a word. He opened the ghost box inside his backpack, shielded by his hoodie. He tapped into the bus company's local server. He didn't just buy her a ticket. He accessed the company's loyalty rewards database and manually added a lifetime golden pass to her phone number. The woman's phone chirped. She looked down, her eyes widening. Oh my goodness, she whispered. It says I'm a lifetime member." She looked at the bus driver, who shrugged and scanned her phone. "All clear, ma'am. Welcome aboard." Leo watched the bus pull away. He felt a small spark of warmth in his chest, a feeling he hadn't known since his parents were around. He realized he couldn't save the whole world, not yet, but he could fix the glitches, one person at a time. As he turned to head back to the library, a shadow fell over him. A man in a sharp gray suit stood at the entrance of the alley. He wasn't a cop. He wasn't a security guard. He looked like an executive, but his eyes were as cold as a server room. "You're a hard person to find, Leo," the man said. Leo's heart hammered against his ribs. He reached into his backpack, his finger hovering over the white ball button on the ghost box. "Don't do that," the man said, holding up a hand. "I'm not here to arrest you. My name is Elias. I represent a group. Let's call us the Silent Architects. We've been watching you since the Aegis incident." "I don't want a job," Leo said, his voice trembling but firm. "We don't want to give you a job, Leo. We want to give you a playground. The people you're fighting? They're just the symptoms. We're interested in the cure." Elias tossed a small, black coin onto the ground. It wasn't currency. It was a hardware security token. When you're tired of living in an attic and eating cold beans, plug that in. It'll lead you to a network even you haven't seen. A place where a boy who can see the world in code can finally have a home. Elias turned and walked away, disappearing into the evening fog. Leo picked up the coin. He looked at the library, then at the city lights. He was a hacker, an orphan, and a hero in the shadows. He didn't know if Elias was a friend or a new kind of enemy, but he knew one thing for certain. The game was just beginning. If you enjoy watching this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to A9 Stories TV for more interesting stories. Thank you.